Mr. Soros is adamant we've got a hard landing. Is he right or wrong?
He may be right, but I think he's wrong. China's economy doesn't look very good. On the other hand, if old China, industrial China, is zero, and the consumer sector 6, 7, 8%, if they're about half and half, that's still a decent growth rate. No hard landing, and not going to be one.
Is it enough for Chair Yellen to really stay focused on domestic policy? That seems to be one of the great tensions into this year. Can our Fed ignore China and international economics?
Well, of course they can't ignore China, and I don't think they are now, and I don't think they have for the last decade, like they're not ignoring what happens in Japan, what happens in Europe either. They never say anything about the dollar, which is, I think, quite understandable. But we've now heard from two of the big central banks, the Fed and ECB. We'll hear from BOJ in, 18 hours? And I don't think we will hear anything directly from China, but they are surely watching.
You know, Don Strazheim with us at Evercore ISI will continue this dialogue forward on China economics. A Dow negative 103 with a VIX 22.57, a churn all in all within the markets. Dollar yen 118.73. Abenomics friendly today, as good as it can be, and West Texas Intermediate getting a little more of a bid. We had a 32 handle earlier, second screen earlier if we could, 31.72, and the euro dollar 108.92 after the Fed meeting.
This is The Fed Decides, live on Bloomberg Television and radio. I'm Scarlett Fu, here with surveillance anchor Tom Keene and Bloomberg economics editor Michael McKee. With us is Donald Strazheim with Evercore ISI. He is the head of China research. He has spent decades on the China Watch. He's the king of anecdotal analysis on China. And Don, we have heard from two central bankers lately, Mario Draghi and Mr. Kuroda of the Bank of Japan. I want you to hear what Kuroda has said regarding China.
Even if China slowed down a little bit, and even if oil producers and developing countries, their growth rate slightly slowed down, I don't think there's any sort of global financial crisis or global recession like the situation after the Lehman crisis.
So many people say, Don, that China's market turmoil does not reflect what's happening in the real economy. What would you look for to signal that perhaps there is spillage into the real economy from the gyrations in equities?
Well, first of all, China's equity market is an animal unto itself, not really correlated well with other equity markets or with China's economy. The data that comes out of Beijing we find just simply opaque and not very useful. So you need to watch those real economic measures, consumption of electricity, container traffic, rail freight, the consumption of various industrial products. Those are the things to watch. And I think Kuroda is right. I don't think there is a hard landing in China. If China's economy grows at a very slow, historically 4% rate the next few years, that's likely to be faster than the U.S., Japan, and Europe. They'll be a bigger player in the global economy 5 years from now than they are today.
What set this all off back in August was China's revaluation of the yuan. And what has a lot of people worried right now is the possibility they might do another one on a fairly rapid basis. But isn't that really the solution to their problems rather than a problem for the rest of the world?
Well, you're exactly right, Mike. I don't think they're going to do another devaluation, that is a step shift, a one-time kind of a measure. But I think gradual depreciation is in the works and will continue to be. The Chinese yuan is up 30% versus the U.S. dollar for the last decade. The euro and the yen are down 15 or 20%. That massive 40, 50% give up on competitiveness is what China is now working hard to fix.